It's March 20th. If March were a human being, it would be 85.
And sick.
Very, very. But we can't talk about that.
We're going to talk about it. We can't say the word, but every story's about it.
Krista's still glamping.
And she's probably on her way back by now.
Oh, we need to do a Linode spot for this one on Friday. Because Linode is sponsoring us for the month of March.
Well, you know what? You need a lot of media to get through staying at home for long periods of time.
They're doing a special this month, and that is free object storage through the end of the month. Unlimited object storage. So it's like their version of an S3 storage bucket. So you can upload all of your media.
Well, think about this scenario. Let's say you're at home, you're enjoying your media from your NAS or whatever, and you're thinking, man, everything's good. But then unexpectedly, you have to move to a trailer in the middle of nowhere. But you still have your tablet with you, and you'd like to get to that media.
And you have a reasonable internet connection.
But it's at home. Well, they give you free Wi-Fi.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
Linode. It's a good option. There's a link in the description below for the linode.com/level1 text, which is our affiliate link, which you should use to sign up for Linode. But if you already have a Linode account, good news, you can still get free object storage through the end of the month. So that you take it, try it, do some stuff. I'm experimenting with using it as a static site generator. I'm currently stuck on the SSL part. So they give you an SSL certificate, but I want a vanity SSL certificate. So that's a little trickier. On with the news.
And if you just want, let's say that you're stuck at home and you want to explore Linux and learn how to use it, but you don't have any extra computers at home.
Yeah, that's good. You get the lowest option on Linux.
All kinds of time on your hands.
Yes.
Plenty of time for watching YouTube tutorials and practicing certain things on your own. Well, there you go.
You can learn automation without the Amazon beer goggles. You can learn how it is in the real world without using Amazon's proprietary tools.
And there might be a job shortage or
skill shortage.
Yeah. When you come out, because those people aren't there anymore. Maybe you want to learn about security. Maybe you want to become a security expert. And there's always jobs there, because while some of the people in the world are taking time off of work, the criminals never do.
A Czech hospital has been hit by a cyber attack while it was in the midst of caring for a lot of very critically ill patients about an outbreak of something.
And this was real serious. They interviewed a guy who was in the hospital at the time, and he said the loudspeaker every 30 minutes would be like, "Shut down all computers. There's been a cyber incident. Shut down all computers." And they talked to some other people who were like, "Yeah, I showed up for my surgery," and they weren't doing surgeries that day. And they were turning people away. It was that serious.
I think there was one thing that was mentioned there. It's like they were in the middle of brain surgery for somebody, and it was just like, no, we have to shut down and close them up.
That's tough to wake up. And well, it's like, was it a success? And it's like, 40%. We're going to go back.
I kind of was hoping that the way that the story read, I kind of was like, they finally got to the point with the cyber criminals, and it was like, look, you need to, like, this is really bad. You need, and the criminals were just like, oh man, we didn't realize it was that bad. We've unencrypted all your stuff.
No, that's not going to happen. No.
That did happen once. We had one or two stories where that happened.
If you're the kind of person who targets a hospital, well, the phone companies are always thinking of new ways to charge you those little fees on your bill. They love those little fees. Little fees that don't really cost them anything, and they can just tack on. That's their bread and butter. And they'll do things like sell you a service that you should get automatically, which is to protect your phone number and not sell it to advertisers. That costs extra. But even then, they can't get it right.
Comcast accidentally published 200,000 unlisted phone numbers. Comcast made the same mistake once before and had to pay $33 million. Currently, they have not been fined, but they have offered everybody $100 in credit. And I think there were some people that complained more about that, and I think Comcast made some additional concessions to those people. But this will probably be reviewed, and hopefully they'll have to pay a lot more because they deliberately published unlisted numbers just on a directory website.
Sad.
Which was then picked up by other, screen scrapers and things.
Well, they let them change their phone number
for free. Yeah.
But if you're using two-factor and stuff like that,
Yes.
your phone number is not as portable as it once was.
Yeah.
So, terrible. Now, we talked about Banjo in a previous episode, but we were talking about current-day Banjo and how terrifying that is. This article is instead about past Banjo, also terrifying, slightly less.
Surveillance firm Banjo used a secret company and fake apps to scrape social media. One former employee said the secret company called Pink Unicorn Labs was doing the same thing as Cambridge Analytica, but more nefariously, arguably. So Motherboard managed to get their hands on one of the apps that is no longer published on the Google Play Store. It stopped as of 2016, and they were able to decompile it. And oh yeah, the invasive analytics, trying to record everything that you do, figure out the real person, your location, just as much information as they could possibly glean from your phone. They did. So it is like Cambridge Analytica, but worse.
And the apps were, just some inane One Direction fan, EDM fan, and Formula Racing app. So really, unsuspecting people with questionable taste installing these apps and just having their whole life scraped away and used for advertising. And these are the people who are watching us now. These same people. Rest easy. But it turns out that an app that is sold for one thing, often the opposite of what it's really doing, is spying on you. Now, we got our first taste of this with, what was Facebook's VPN called? Ovum or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what it was called. But
From Oath or something.
everybody said, Facebook, really? Facebook is doing a VPN? How can we trust that?
They're paying you to use their VPN.
And they were right. And it turns out a lot of the software out there is doing the same exact thing.
Popular VPN and ad blocking apps are secretly harvesting user data. So they took a look at mobile ad block Luna, free VPN service. I can't remember the names. You'll have to scroll down. Sensor Tower. Sensor Tower has owned at least 20 apps, and they just collect data. Yeah, Luna VPN, mobile data, ad block Focus. Those are all recently available.
Yeah, the VPN landscape is getting more and more dangerous because who can you trust at this point?
It really is a mess.
I think even private internet access is questionable at this point.
They faltered a little bit, but we still have them on our support page.
Should we?
I don't know.
You don't know who to trust. That's the problem.
But you know who you can trust.
Linode.
Linode. You can build your own VPN with Linode. That affiliate link is below.
And when, you keep thinking week after week, it's like, it just can't get any worse for Intel. They've got to be scraping the bottom. I imagine they lost quite a bit of market cap. I didn't look at their stock price, but I bet they got killed.
They just announced they were axing an entire server division. So, on the public face, they're like, everything's fine. We're making CPUs as fast as we can sell them. Everything's fine, but it's not looking that way.
Yeah, everything is not fine. And we get, admittedly, not on the level of the previous problems, but more speculative-related problems with Intel CPUs.
Intel CPUs are vulnerable to new LVI attacks. So this is like load, store, execute type. Things happen a little bit out of order, and you can exploit that. So this is a new variation on a previously mitigated attack, and the new variation of this attack is not mitigated. Phoronix did some testing, and the mitigations are quite severe. For like RSA signs, it goes from a couple thousand signs per minute to like 100. That's quite a performance impact.
And there's not a whole lot they can do about it. They will either destroy performance or fix it in the hardware, but that's no good for people who already have them.
It'll be fixed in hardware about 5 years from now.
And not to be left out, although again, kind of more made out of this than there should be. And I wonder if maybe some people at Intel funded this research.
That was a footnote in the thing, yeah. AMD processors from 2011 to 2019 vulnerable to 2 new attacks. We mentioned this briefly last week, but there wasn't a really good write-up or anything on that. So academics have disclosed 2 new collide and probe and load and reload attacks on AMD CPUs. The problem is that AMD said that Well, this is just a variation on previously mitigated attacks. And if you follow all of our mitigations, both the hardware and firmware mitigations, as well as the compiler and operating system mitigations, then you will not be impacted by this vulnerability. The researchers say, no, there's still something to it, but they have yet to produce a proof of concept that with the mitigations and the compiler changes that this can still be exploited.
Yeah, I don't think that it will have the same impact in terms of purchasing that the Intel ones.
Yeah. The Intel server division that they've axed the whole like server unit that's a big deal because that's like historically that's where the most profit margin is.
Now in the security section, we talked about the arms race that is browser tracking. So things like the subdomain trick and the traditional routes of tracking that are getting blocked, like Facebook, stuff that Firefox is doing. That's all great. It's wonderful. It's nice that we have that, but it is an arms race. The ad companies do not stop the R&D when they have something that works, and they are ahead of all of those techniques with a nasty little thing known as browser fingerprinting. But there is a silver lining.
Brave.
What would you call a lining? Especially if there's a sphere in the middle.
Wait, what now?
Never mind.
Silver lining? What?
You're not allowed to say it.
Oh, yeah. No, we can't call it that. Also, it's a component of the sun. ZDNet is reporting that Brave is going to generate a random browser fingerprint to preserve user privacy. So every time you fire up Brave, every time you navigate to a different website, it's going to have a different browser fingerprint. What's a browser fingerprint, you wonder? Well, in JavaScript, you can load a lot of information about your operating environment. Like, for example, if you're using the light theme or the dark theme in your operating system, that's a data point.
The width and height.
Width and height. Screen resolution, because you can tell the difference between the browser width and height and the available
Plugins.
Screen resolution, plugins. Well, not just plugins, even extensions. So like you can read Chrome extensions, you can enumerate all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of information you can get from the browser, and that can be used to fingerprint an individual.
But not in Brave, because Brave will sort of scramble all of that and change it with every web page that's loaded or every reload of the same web page. So it kind of makes you look like a slightly different person every time. Smart. I bet they're working on how to work around that. This one goes in the Captain Obvious section, written by Captain Obvious, but it's worth mentioning because when we talk about security, you really have to doubt that thing that you've got mounted to your door.
Amazon's Ring logs every doorbell press and app action. Can you imagine, like right now in somebody's house somewhere, they've got the full Amazon enchilada. There's Alexas in every room. They've got Ring and blah, and it's just recording everything. And at some point, like right now, let's say that there's 7-year-old kids, brother and sister in the house, and mom and dad, and they're having a birthday party, and it's a raucous celebration. Alexa is observing, and then about 10 years from now, Alexa's going to be like, "Hey guys, you remember when you had the 7th birthday party here in the house? Ha ha ha! We had a really good time, didn't we?" And it's going to be super weird and creepy, like extra weird and creepy.
I don't know. I think a lot of people will be like, "Oh my God, we forgot that, Alexa. Thank you so much. Show us pictures." And it's not going to be, I'm just getting a paywall alternative here, so continue.
So I think that it's gathering the data to learn from, but also to sell to law enforcement or sell to, I mean, I'm thinking about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and that whole machine that was designed to sell toys to children. But now we can still have that machine designed to sell toys to children, but also we can get data from Alexa as to what the children are talking about.
That's true. They probably, imagine how many more they would have sold if in real time they'd be like, "Oh, the kids are eating up Triclops." More characters that have to do with eyes. That's what we need. So, moving over into the nonsense section, and this is one of those nonsense instances where it's not so much nonsense as just tragedy.
It's a bridge story.
But I don't know where else to put it. It's just the darkness that I feel like we need to talk about, but I don't know where to put it. So, let's just look at it.
Satellite images show Iran building burial pits for Those people that we can't talk about. Things are not good in Iran.
One of these awesome slidey images. So it's like, oh.
They can be seen from space.
That's a lot. That's a lot of extra storage. I wonder why not, because China used crematoriums, right?
Yeah.
Is that a religious thing?
Probably. I wonder how long after you die that you're still infectious.
I think it sheds very rapidly. I think I read something about that. But still, listen, I'll volunteer. if it takes me, pop me right in the oven. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest headlines to come out this week, I mean, tragedy, yes, but gallows humor, it's often some of the best.
A scientific meeting on that thing was canceled due to that thing. And we mentioned this before, but this article has a ton of details and stuff like that on this article. It was literally a conference about those kinds of things, and they were going to make it specifically about this one. But this isn't the first time this is convened. How
to deal with all of the cancellations caused by this thing. So,
was it self-canceled?
Very meta. This was in New York, and I think this was scheduled back in the days when we thought that it wasn't going to be that big a deal.
Yeah.
And probably the things they were going to talk about here were not severe enough.
Well, this type of thing is not the first time we've seen this type of thing. And that's why this is not a brand new thing as a result of the current thing. This is a brand new thing as a result of the previous iterations of this thing, which were also relatively severe, but also relatively well contained.
But yeah, they did not have the ability to spread like the current one, which is what's terrifying about it. Well, we talk about the Chinese Communist Party and how good they are at suppressing any kind of communication, not both within the country, but really well outside the country. Things do not cross the Great Firewall. But there is a trick if you want to get on-the-ground reporting from China that you can use.
Tinder has become a news service about that thing, which is not what God intended. What a great headline. So what people are doing is setting their location to that place where this thing originated. And then they're asking people, it's like, hey, I'm not really there, but what's going on there? And then they can actually give them the real scoop on what's going on there, because this is not well censored or plugged into the social, the Great Firewall yet.
I think it is in fact banned in China, but they're using it anyway. And so, yeah. Although I got to think, if you're, in China and you're hoping to hook up, although how realistic is that right now? It's kind of annoying to be getting all these, Americans hitting you up. It's like, oh, no, I'm not interested in sex. I want you to tell me what's going on there.
Are you okay?
But they seemed friendly enough with also excellent English. We talked about the hoarding and the panic shopping. I experienced it yesterday. I went to the store not to panic shop. I actually was I was making salsa, and I needed salsa supplies. And I was shocked that here in our sleepy little town, no toilet paper, no beans, no canned beans. Canned vegetables were very pegged through. No canned tomatoes. Trying to make salsa. And, of course, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes, forget it. Nothing. And a lot of people are trying to be opportunistic there, resell them, and sales are way up.
Online sales of sanitizer, hand sanitizer, and other quote-unquote virus protectors spiked over 800% this year in the U.S. I have a feeling this is not the final number. It's probably going to be like 17 million thousand%.
I wonder if they go full tilt, how much can they produce in a day?
We have, orders to restock things like cases of water here at the office. And they've been canceled like 4 times, like just a regular water order. And it's just like, nope, no bottled water for you. Nope, canceled.
Did you guys talk about last week the homemade recipe?
A little bit.
Aloe vera gel and isopropyl alcohol?
Yeah, no, we didn't mention that one. But it just
glycerin, I think aloe vera gel already has glycerin in it.
Oh, okay, so you just add alcohol and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Neat.
But yeah, the percentages have to be a certain amount after the mixture. And I don't know if there's a good way to test that at home. Got to be better than nothing, though, right?
Yeah.
Italy is hit particularly hard by that thing. And they are on a full nationwide, don't leave your house unless you absolutely have to, lockdown. And what that means in terms of online traffic has been interesting.
Household Italian kids have strained the network with Fortnite Marathon. So everybody's playing Fortnite to such an extent that their ISPs are having trouble keeping up with the capacity, which is surprising. I didn't think that Fortnite would use nearly as much bandwidth as, say, Netflix.
Probably not. But
It depends on how well Netflix is cached, I suppose, and where the cache is located.
yeah, but I'd say there's probably a lot more people playing Fortnite than there are watching Netflix. Also, I saw that statistic, CSGO.
Oh yeah, over 1 million players on CS:GO.
Concurrent. So people are online gaming to kill the boredom. I'm just sitting at home playing Cataclysm by myself.
We should stream that.
And one thing, so in China, presumably the lockdown is ending. We don't know. Who can say for sure? But while they were locked up, they were not afforded some of the creature comforts that are allowed in the Western world. Now, to augment this, I didn't put the story in here, but I saw another headline. One of the adult sites, was giving free access to Italy for the month of March,
That's probably good.
but not in China.
No porn for Chinese stuck under virus lockdown. So internet controls have proved even more restrictive as Chinese life moves online under quarantine. So these people were brought up on charges of providing illicit material online. Those poor people.
That's a tough charge. And then to go into a Chinese prison under those conditions. Ouch.
Some of them are really like hanging their head in shame, and the others are just like, yeah, I did it.
Well, they know their social score is never
Never going to recover.
Yeah, it's done. It's over. And we don't necessarily need a good reason for public brawls here in the U.S. I mean, a good Black Friday, we'll get this same kind of video. But as things get bad, people get violent.
Two have been arrested in brawl over hand sanitizer at Quad City Walmart. There's not really anything else to the story other than, I weep for the future of humanity.
So there were two assailants. I watched the video. I couldn't get a good idea of exactly what the argument was. Hard to make out into the words, but I guess these two were upset about maybe how much he was buying. I don't know. I have heard of people confronting other people about the amount of, like they'll fill their whole cart with toilet paper. It is kind of a dick move.
I think we're just fortunate at the office that we've got probably a 2-week supply.
I've been trickling in. I've never bought more than one parcel of toilet paper. But just ever since this started, it's like, okay, buy one every week. I don't go through one every week, but buy one every week.
So now you've got quite the stockpile.
I get the big, the Charmin like mega rolls. Now they say those are worth $6. So if you do the math like that, I think I've got 104. That's got to get me through, right?
I think we've got 2 cases of Dial hand sanitizer, too, that we just have in stock.
We shouldn't be saying this because we're inviting the looters.
Oh, that's not good.
But in Japan, which this is an interesting story because public toilets in Japan don't always give you toilet paper. That's kind of a Western thing.
In Taiwan, you have to ask the counter of the shop owner for the toilet paper key or code or a roll.
But apparently this place did, and much to their dismay, people were hauling it off, 2-3 rolls at a time. And they had an interesting solution.
A Japanese store has put a curse on its toilet paper rolls to prevent thefts. The image is high enough resolution that you can save a picture of this and print out for your own home use.
You think it would work here? I don't think this would stop anybody.
It's got like 3 eyes at the top. That's...
I think that's to show that it's looking at you.
Yeah.
And then this is some sort of like this toilet paper is cursed. Now, I wonder, though, will the curse not affect people who are using it legitimately?
That is the idea, yes.
That's a very specific curse. That's some advanced cursing right there.
Listen, the spirits of our dead don't have anything better to do all day. This makes perfect sense. Give them the task.
I guess they would be able to differentiate. Now, this Bangkok Post story doesn't list the reason for this, Well, first I should ask you, are you Team Temple Monkey or are you Team City Monkey?
I wouldn't have had any. I would have been like, why is this here? If you hadn't told me earlier in the week, because it was just like, oh, it makes perfect sense. But until you know, it doesn't make any sense at all. I think I would probably be Team Temple Monkey.
I got to go Temple Monkey as well. There is a gang war in Thailand going on with these monkeys. And they don't tell you why, but there is a good reason why.
Monkey Brawl in Lop Buri, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
I have no idea.
Has shocked humans. So it's the temple monkeys versus the street monkeys. And they're fighting with one another. They are just tearing this town apart. It is a mess.
I don't have the video here. There was a video on Reddit. So presumably, at least, people presume it is. That's what that means, doesn't it? Tourists are not going to Thailand anymore, especially the temples. And previously, the tourists gave a lot of food to the monkeys. So much that they didn't really have to work. They just hung out and ate the tourist food. Those tourists are gone. And look what happens.
Is this a parable for our future?
The welfare state? Yeah. Yeah, that's why you don't do that. So, F in the chat for the monkeys. Who knows? They're going to starve out, I guess. It's interesting. We have a local Chinese restaurant here, and they put an entire 5-pound bag of Skittles in their claw machine, their skill crane, and I don't think it can pick it up.
No, there's no way.
I don't think like there's nowhere to grasp if it could lift 5 pounds, but I don't think it can. It's a brilliant move, maybe a little unethical, but brilliant, and. This is also a brilliant move when it comes to stocking your skill cranes.
Amid the shortages, Arcade stocks claw machines with soap, toilet paper, and hand sanitizer. I gotta think the shop owner just did this for the lulz, for the meme action. I can't imagine that anybody would really be.
What does a bottle of hand sanitizer like that cost pre-crisis?
Like 50 cents to 80 cents. $1 maybe. The gas.
That's a big one. I think that's probably like $1.50, $2.
At the gas station, those are around $1. So I've got to imagine that a case cost is less.
So, but when you can't get it, I suppose it's got value.
Well, that's probably where looters are going to go. It's like, nobody's going to loot the arcade. Why would you?
Yeah, you could smash that thing and get whatever you want.
Get a whole day's worth of hand sanitizer.
Look how happy that rabbit is. His hands are clean. His paws.
If you couldn't see the label clearly, it would be implying something else.
So yeah, that's an interesting move. A cheap one as well. Smart. Those skill crane owners.
This is my
smart.
favorite nonsense story that we've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you read it, did you try to guess how it happened?
Yeah.
I was completely wrong.
Completely. Yeah. But it belongs in a technology news show. Burning calories. Pig starts farm fire by excreting a pedometer. That's the headline. Let me explain it to you. Because it's worth... So 75 acres burned on this farm because it was dry. The conditions were dry. But what started the fire? It was the battery in a pedometer. Why did the pig why did the pig have access to a pedometer? Well, it ate a pedometer that had fallen off of another pig. And apparently, the farmers put pedometers on the pigs to prove that the pigs are free-range pigs. So in a way, this is a hipster's fault.
Well, if you buy the organic, the really expensive pork, this is your fault.
So the pig ate the pedometer, which caused it to malfunction, pooped it out, the poop dried, and the battery...
Pooped it into hay.
The lithium-ion battery, being a lithium-ion battery, can't wait to catch on fire, especially after it had been through an ordeal like that. So it did catch on fire, and it burned 75 acres of this farm.
This would be a great story to recycle in a dinosaur movie, where a dinosaur eats a Tesla, and that's what stops them, is the resulting fire. Cryptocurrencies took a beating during the stock market turmoil of the week. You would think that they would go up in times of crisis, but no, when the chips are really down, everything goes down. But perhaps not this special coin.
cryptocurrency developers create a new digital coin inspired by that thing that we can't talk about. The deaths caused by that thing that we can't talk about. I think Ryan added this story only to see me struggle to explain this story. I can't even tell you the name of this coin.
What's the name of the coin? So yeah, this coin, they released a specific amount of coins. I think it's equal to the world population. And as deaths are reported, coins will be deleted. So the rarity will increase the worse things get.
The name of the coin is the same thing that Dr. Beverly Crusher helped Dr. Yeager develop a new type of metaphasic shield on that was subsequently used by the Enterprise to escape the Borg. They were able to enter the sun's coin.
Yeah, the algorithm is totally going to get that. It's going to know exactly what you're talking about. Did you watch Star Trek Picard?
I've watched almost all of the episodes at this point. I think I'm one, maybe two episodes behind.
I thought this week's one was a little too goofy. They went. You know how some of the TNG episodes just got silly?
Yeah,
they went silly.
Did they do silly to the level of like The Naked Now, where Data's like drunk?
Kind of like the AI on the ship. Like they just got real silly with that.
Well, I've got that to look forward to then, because I already thought it was kind of like lost in trying to decide what it wants to be. But it's renewed for season 2, so there's more episodes coming. So
the story is not terrible.
I feel like that, like 3 episodes in, it was a pretty good pace, and then I feel like they got that renewal for season 2, and then they just slowed it right down.
Let's stretch this out.
Yeah,
let's mix more cornflakes in with the meat here. Well, Boston had a school for some special needs children, and they have a bit of a controversial policy. Well, not anymore. They're going to cancel it. But for years, they've been doing this.
U.S. bans shock, quote-unquote, treatment on children with special needs at a Boston area school. This headline is not inflammatory enough. What this actually was basically human shock collars. It was not shock treatment, as in something like that makes you think, something clinical. No, it's just like they were actually shocking, children for misbehaving or being special needs. It was really, really dark. So the FDA is like, no, this is not okay anywhere.
31 times over 7 hours. And they mentioned one student, this went on, day after day after day. And 33 times a week. That's a lot more than one a day. Now, these kids, I'm sure they're very annoying to deal with. No question. But if you're going to take a job like that, you have to expect to put up with that.
Yeah.
So I think there might be some lawsuits.
Probably.
And finally, we are perhaps, selfishly, we think about how long can I stay at home? When do I need to resupply? What if there's no bottled water? Is my ass going to be dirty? What's going to happen to me? But we don't think about others, especially the lowest of classes. And we should, because they're going to be severely impacted by what's going on.
Sex workers bracing for income loss during the coronavirus pandemic.
God damn
oh,
it.
No, I said it.
This is the last story.
Maybe we can remember to bleep it out.
The whole way.
Maybe we can bleep it out. I don't know. So, yeah. Well, maybe if they're looking for a career change and they want to become a Twitch streamer, they could come to the Level 1 forums and we'll help them set up a streaming computer.
They mention that they think perhaps the way to go is to become a cam girl instead of a live stage show. And you have to think the audience will be greatly increased during the quarantine.
There are a couple of conversations on the forum already about some porn stars have retired to the streaming community, and Twitch has cautiously embraced them.
There's a YouTube channel called Soft White Underbelly, great channel, and they interview just like people with weird jobs. And they interviewed a cam girl who was just like a kind of a bread and butter cam girl. He's like just churning it out, and she said that it was like a lot like being a Twitch streamer. If you wanted to be one of the top ones, you had to do at least 6 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Ooh.
You had to be there for those regulars, and you couldn't take time off. If you took time off, they'd find somebody else. and you really just had to, grind it out as a cam girl. No pun intended.
That was a pretty good pun, actually. We're grinding it out on the news every week.
That's all we got. Hopefully Chris will be back next week to tell us about her exciting camping adventure. And we'll have more terribly depressing stories about society falling apart.
Yeah. All right. Catch you guys later.